Picture this. You're 62 years old. You've done everything right. You saved your whole career. You've got $1.2 million in your 401k. You sit down with your financial advisor and he smiles at you and says, "Great news. The 4% rule says you can withdraw $48,000 a year and never run out of money." You feel relieved. You retire. You start drawing down that $48,000. Life is good. And then, 10 years later, you're watching your balance drop faster than you expected. Inflation has eaten your purchasing power, your $48,000 doesn't buy what it used to, and you're starting to do the math in your head and thinking, wait, this doesn't add up. I did everything they told me to do. How is this happening? Here's the brutal truth. The 4% rule, the single most cited piece of retirement advice in the last 30 years, was designed for a world that no longer exists. And if you're planning your retirement around it today, you might be heading toward a financial cliff in slow motion. Hello, I'm Stickman, and I spend way too much time thinking about retirement math. If you're someone who has a number in your head, a retirement nest egg target, and you're not 100% sure that number is actually right for the world we're living in now, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Today, we're going to tear apart the 4% rule, explain exactly why it was built, why it worked for decades, and why the assumptions that made it work have quietly collapsed without anyone sending you a memo. Okay, so first, what is the 4% rule? Back in 1994, a financial advisor named William Bengen ran a bunch of historical simulations and found that if you withdrew 4% of your portfolio in year one of retirement, then adjusted that amount for inflation every year after, you wouldn't run out of money over a 30-year period, even through some of the worst market crashes in history. That research got popularized. Financial planners loved it because it gave them a clean, simple answer to a complicated question. It became gospel. Save 25 times your annual expenses and you're set. Just pull 4% per year. It's clean, it's simple, it's on every personal finance website. And for people retiring in the 1990s and 2000s, it largely worked. Here's what most people don't realize though. The conditions that made it work were very specific, and 3 of those conditions have fundamentally changed. Why bonds are failing. Okay, so first, the original research assumed a classic 60-40 portfolio. 60% stocks, 40% bonds. The bonds were supposed to be your cushion. When stocks crashed, bonds would hold steady, generate income, and protect you from having to sell equities at the worst time. Here's the thing though, that model assumed bonds would yield somewhere between 4 and 6%. That was just normal for decades. The 10-year Treasury yield averaged around 6 to 7% through the 1980s and 1990s. Now, even after the rate hikes of the early 2020s, real yields, meaning after inflation, are dramatically lower on a long-run basis. And for the decade leading up to 2022, near zero interest rates meant their bonds were basically earning nothing. The cushion wasn't a cushion, it was a wet paper towel. So when you run the 4% simulation with today's bond reality, the math changes. Your portfolio's expected return drops. The safe withdrawal rate drops with it. High stock market risk. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but stocks have done great. The S&P 500 has crushed it. Surely that compensates. Sort of. Here's the catch. The original research drew on historical returns going back to 1926. Those historical returns included a lot of periods where stocks were cheap by valuation standards. You were buying earnings at a reasonable price, which meant future returns had room to run. Today's market, especially heading into the late 1910s and 2020s, has been characterized by elevated valuations. The CAPE ratio, which measures price relative to average earnings, has been sitting at historically high levels. Research from Vanguard and others suggests that high starting valuations historically predict lower returns over the following 10 years. If you retire at the peak of an expensive market, your sequence of returns risk, the danger of early losses destroying your nest egg before it can recover, is dramatically higher. You can't just copy-paste the average return from 1926 to 2000 and assume it applies to someone retiring today. This is where it gets really interesting. 2 people can retire with the exact same $1 million, and one can end up broke while the other ends up with $2 million, just because of the sequence of their returns in the first 5 years. Same balance, completely different outcomes. The longevity challenge. The 4% rule was designed to last 30 years. Retire at 65, money lasts till 95. Done. Except people are living longer, a lot longer. According to the Social Security Administration, a 65-year-old today has roughly a 1 in 4 chance of living past 90, and if you're a couple, there's nearly a 50% chance one of you makes it to 92. We're also seeing a growing number of people retiring earlier, 55, 60, which means the money might need to last 35 or even 40 years. Run the 4% rule over 40 years instead of 30, and the failure rates get uncomfortable fast. We're talking about scenarios where the math breaks down in 30 to 40% of historical cases. That's not a rounding error. That's a coin flip with your retirement security. The new 3.3% math. Okay, so what do you actually do with this? Let's get practical. A growing number of financial researchers, including updated work from Morningstar and retirement specialists like David Blanchett, now suggest a safer withdrawal rate is closer to 3.3 to 3.5% for someone retiring today with a standard 60-40 portfolio. What does that mean in dollars? Let's do the math together. Old 4% rule, $1 million portfolio equals $40,000 per year. New 3.3% rate, $1 million portfolio equals $33,000 per year. That's a $7,000 difference every single year. Or flip it around, if you need $50,000 a year to live comfortably, under the old 4% rule, you need $1,225,000 saved. Under the new 3.3% rate, you need $1,515,000. You need an extra $265,000 in retirement savings just to hit the same income. Look, I know that's not what anyone wants to hear, but I would rather you hear it now at 35, 45, even 55, than figure it out at 72 when your options are limited. Smart retirement strategies. So here are the 3 shifts that actually matter. Number 1, target a lower withdrawal rate. If you've been planning around 4%, recalibrate to 3.3 to 3.5%. Yes, it means saving more, but it also means sleeping better. Number 2, build income floors. The scariest part of retirement isn't market volatility, it's not having guaranteed income to cover your basics. Social Security, annuities, rental income, a pension if you have one. The more of your essential expenses you can cover with guaranteed income sources, the less your portfolio needs to do, and the more flexibility you have to ride out market downturns without panic selling. And number 3, build in flexibility. The rigid withdraw exactly 4% every year approach ignores reality. Real retirees cut spending in bad years and spend more in good years. A dynamic withdrawal strategy where you adjust based on portfolio performance can dramatically improve long-run outcomes without requiring a bigger nest egg. Here's the bottom line. The 4% rule isn't evil. It was a genuinely useful tool for its time, but it was built on a specific set of assumptions about interest rates, market valuations, and life expectancy, and all 3 of those assumptions have shifted. Retiring on autopilot in 2025 and beyond using 1994 math is like navigating with a map that hasn't been updated in 30 years. The roads have changed. Some of those bridges are out. The good news is you know, and knowing with enough time means you can adjust. The single best thing you can do today is run your own numbers using a 3.3% withdrawal rate and see what that means for your savings goal. Then close the gap. One account, 1 year, one decision at a time. If this video helped you think differently about retirement, give it a thumbs up. It genuinely helps more people find this content. Stickman signing off today. Go protect your future self. I'll see you in the next one.